Hi there, it's Archie. I'm back for the ADHD Care podcast. I hope I find you well. I have a special guest joining me today for this special edition of the podcast. I have Iffat, who is a neurodiverse counsellor who specialises or has a special interest in ADHD and autism. So I'll be just finding out from Iffat in terms of some of the counselling work that she does in the neurodiversity field, and specifically working with individuals that have ADHD and autism. And certainly that's going to be a fascinating conversation. Let's see if I can try and bring in Iffat onto the call.
Hey, hi there.
Hi there, how are you?
Yeah, good.
Excellent. I understand you are a neurodiverse counsellor and you have a special interest in ADHD and autism.
That's right. That's correct. Yes, that's right. So I have ADHD and autism myself, and I think the way I work is to be the counsellor that I've always wanted myself, really. So counselling is a special interest of mine. Neurodiversity is an interest of mine. I've combined them together, as well as actually yoga. Recently qualified as a yoga teacher, so I'm combining breathing techniques into my work as well, and try to make it accessible for people who think that they're too restless, they can't focus. For people who are neurodiverse, thinking that they can't access yoga, and it's an incredible help to de-escalating anxiety and stress.
Excellent. So your age group, do you work with children, young people and adults, or do you specialise in a particular age?
All ages.
All ages,
yeah.
Right.
So online, older teens and adults, and also work in schools, primary and secondary as well.
Right.
But the online work is specifically geared towards ADHD and autism.
Right. Okay. So you go into the schools, and do you want to tell us a bit more in terms of the kind of work you do in the schools?
Yeah. So that's child-centered, play-based therapy. So it's really interesting. It's great fun. It's the child leads, basically. In the primary school, the child leads, and there's lots of equipment, sensory things, play-based things that they can use to not talk like we're talking right now. It's through metaphor, it's through play that what's going on is communicated, and it's like a buffer zone. It doesn't make it too much. So we don't say, right, tell me your problems, what's going on. It's very much they take the lead and go wherever they wish to go, and I'm just like accompanying them. And it's very different. Like in schools, you're used to a teacher saying, well, you're going to do this today, we're going to do this today. But here, the child makes choices for themselves, and that can be quite empowering. That raises confidence, self-esteem, because they're saying, okay, let's do this, and I'm saying, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll join you. We'll do this together. So that can really make a child think that, yeah, what I have to say is worthwhile, and someone else is interested in my interests as well, and they're engaging with me. It's relational, as like all therapy is relational. And just very quickly over here, we started talking, and we're quick to develop a relational rapport as well, don't we? Because that's where it comes down to a lot of the time, a relationship from one human to another.
Excellent.
And in secondary, it's very much, that's a bit more specific. And talking a bit more focused because they're a bit older.
What is it that you're trying to help the young person with when you're doing your pieces of work, like through the kind of the type of work you're doing? What is it that you're trying to talk? Are you setting goals with them at the start of the treatment? What is it that they're coming to you asking for help with?
Yeah. So it's usually, for example, in the primary school, it's usually the teachers that may suggest, well, this child is going through X, Y, and Z, or their behaviour's changed, or friendships, whatever's happening, difficulties or something happening at home, or children themselves might express that they would like to have some support, something's a bit tricky. And then I'm very explicit about what this is all about, that because it's strange, a child and an older person sort of playing together, it looks a bit odd, but actually I'm very explicit that this is your time. You get to choose what you wish to do, and it's about what's in your heart and what's in your mind. If you choose to share, you can. If you don't wish to, then that's fine. I'm aware you've got X, Y, and Z happening, and it's up to you how you choose to use this time. This is your time, and it's very clear. Like we'll be meeting each week at this time, And so that they're prepared and they know and they ease into it, which is really nice as well. Get into that rhythm, that flow.
Are you focusing mainly...
And in terms of goals...
Yeah, go on.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just... in terms of goals, yeah, go on.
Yeah, it is goals. It's very open-ended because it's about the right intervention for that individual in that moment in time. And ultimately, it's about a bit of confidence, raising self-esteem. The circumstances don't change around that child. They're still in that situation, but something within them may shift.
So, are you focusing around emotions? Are you trying to focus around, I don't know, like, obviously, sometimes some children might have some sensory issues, or they might be finding the environment too stimulating, or to help them improve their focusing through your kind of therapeutic work with them. So are you covering all those aspects, or is that how it works with you then, or?
Yeah, you're right. So all those things really, and also it's informing the teachers and parents or carers also what they can do to help as well, because it's about creating that environment, creating an optimal environment for that young person really, and it's not the child that has to do everything. The adults around them have responsibility as well. So what was the first part of the question? Sorry, I've forgotten what you said.
I was just asking about the emotional. Are you focusing around emotions as well?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there's very creatively, there's a bit of emotional literacy. There's lots of visuals there, like a blob tree. I don't know if you're familiar with that, and lots of use of emojis in different ways to sort of, if children feel drawn to it, to look at it, and sort of Lego people with different emotions. So increasing their awareness of what's going on in their bodies, physically as well as emotionally as well. So yeah.
And I like the fact that you incorporate, like, it's very visual as well, like where you say emojis.
Oh gosh, yes.
And sometimes, particularly some of our young people, they struggle to articulate themselves in terms of how they're feeling, and sometimes that feeling, emotions can come through behavior. So giving them space to be able to recognize what's going through their body, and how to be able to recognize those feelings and to normalize those feelings, to say, it's normal to feel frustrated, angry, worried, and this is what happens in your body. So that's kind of what you're covering there.
Yeah, exactly. Awareness, greater awareness, basically, of what's happening, sort of emotional level and physical level, as well as, because we get stuck in our minds a lot, don't we? Adults and children, it can be a bit more playful and a bit more sort of movement based. So that's good, and it's all very playful as well. It's children want to come. Sometimes might miss a fun part. They're usually happy to come if it's maths, to come out of maths to spend time with me, or even if they're doing something that's quite nice. It's interesting to see that they choose to do this as opposed to stay in class and do something. So then all right, something is shifting. It's working. Something is working. It's hard to say exactly what with words, but they like it. The feedback, I'll ask the children, we'll do a review after X number of sessions. How's it going for you? What do you think? Is it thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs down? What's it like for you? Yeah, it's okay. I like it. Yeah. Do you want to carry on? It's always your choice. It's your choice. You can stop whenever you want. Yeah, and it's sometimes hard for them to say exactly what's helping, but they know that they like it. It's the gut feeling, which is good, to be in tune with your gut. To say, yeah, I like it. I want to attend. Yeah. And then when we work to an end, we spend lots of time, many sessions, getting prepared for the ending as well, because that's important. Endings are important.
Of course. Typically, how many sessions or how long would you work with a young person for?
Yeah, it varies. It could be like about 2 terms, maybe 3 terms. Okay. So that's our whole academic year, perhaps in some cases. Maybe 2 terms, really. But the pace is nice and slow. It takes, especially if you're neurodiverse, it takes a long time to ease into it. A long time to ease into anything new, into that rhythm, that momentum, and then sort of then making the most of that time. So it can take a long time, and maybe it could be like an academic year for someone who's neurodiverse and getting used to it. And you can see the shift. You can see when they've settled.
Right. I was just about to ask in terms of the benefits that you notice, if you think about a few cases you worked with and the outcome of that, and how, what was the difference from when they first came to you and what you saw at the end?
So the interesting thing is teachers and parents providing feedback that children are a bit more settled, bit more willing to engage, enjoying school life a bit more, things that they find a bit tricky, feeling a bit more brave to try something new, friendships slightly improving, them feeling a bit better within themselves. It's the people around them that notice that. And the children themselves, often quite sad to end, but we work with that, work with the sadness, that because people just disappear. People don't like to say goodbye. So in therapy, it's important to provide a good enough ending that is a bit bittersweet. But like I said, we spend many weeks, especially neurodiverse, preparing for the ending. It could be like 8 weeks even to prepare for an end, clear end in sight. You can mentally prepare yourself for it.
You also support parents, as you said there. So in terms of like them carrying on from where you've left off in your sessions, I'm assuming you'll be obviously trying to support the parents and ensuring that they can carry on with the strategies and things that you're doing with the young person in your sessions. So you do some parent-based sort of work as well. As and when needed, and it could be sort of key things specific to that child, and also the counselling with the children is confidential as well. So except for safeguarding, of course, and that's made explicit to the child that it's important that adults keep young people safe. So it's the only time I'd come out of that. So don't talk to parents about what's going on, but I usually agree with the children, like, I'm going to speak to your mum. So what would you like me to say if it's within sessions and the parent wants feedback? And then they will say X, Y, and Z, and I'll feed that back. So keeping that confidentiality. Again, a child thinking and appreciating and building a relationship, thinking that, they're listening to me, I'm being heard. So yes, it would be strategies that are specific to that child, things that could work. It's usually visuals, repeating the same instruction, in the same way, not changing the way you say it, even repeating it in the same way, because if you repeat the same instruction in a different way, especially this a lot with sort of autism, then it becomes a different instruction that needs to be processed. So repeating the same thing in the same way, having a visual cue at 1, 2, 3 is what we're doing, how long it's going to take, it could be stuff like that. And boundaries, for example, how important boundaries are. Yeah, children will test, but they need to know the remit of their boundary. That's why they test it. But boundaries are important for children and adults, for everyone. Yeah, of course. You mentioned about yoga. So you incorporate yoga, like you've just trained as a yoga instructor. So how does that work with neurodiversity? Like, how do you incorporate yoga strategies or techniques into your sessions?
A lot of the breathing. And that's the reason why I went into training into yoga, because I was doing counselling and a lot of strategies to sort of feel a bit more grounded and to de-escalate stress and anxiety and feel a bit more present within your body. I was like, breathing's very good. But I was thinking, hang on, I'm talking about breathing, but I need to do the training on it. I need to do it really well so I understand all the background and it's informed. It's not something I've just read off the web. I need to be trained in this, which is why I went into it. And as my own, I've been practicing yoga for consistently for over about 10 years or so, and I've seen the benefits myself being neurodiverse, and it's the ability thinking, can I actually really focus on something? Can I feel what my body's communicating to me in a way that I can actually use, as opposed to, feeling dissociated with the body and the body sort of screaming for attention in a panic attack because, there hasn't been a connection, that the anxiety's been rising. So having that greater awareness of connection, and when you have that, understanding how breathing can help, how breathing helps to channel what's going on inside, how doing something in yoga can help get that mobilized energy that rises within for it to come out in a safe and healthy way. Like when we feel an intense overwhelm or feeling, I always say it's like a tsunami of feelings, like really intense, it's really powerful, it's building up, and you can see it building up, and there's no stopping it. It's got to follow through, it's going to crash to the beach, but we want a bit of damage limitation. It's going to come out, but we want it to channel out in a safe, healthy way. And so the yoga can do that with, in terms of the types of, especially the dynamic practice, but also the breathing helps channel that energy in a sort of safe way. And you work yourself up and get really sort of, your heart's pounding when you're doing something that's particularly challenging, but then you do the breathing and like allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, and you feel yourself landing a bit. So you see that. How about we can translate that into everyday life?
Yeah, I was just about to, that was my next point in terms of that, transferring those skills into the real life situation. So how do you, because obviously sometimes when I've seen young people engaging in sort of therapy, they might struggle to then apply it when it comes to a situation whereby they might start to feel overwhelmed, or they're getting a bit frustrated within, for example, at school. How do you find with the young people that you work with in terms of transferring those techniques and skills in real life situations?
I think when you're sort of primary school age, it's quite challenging, and I think that even having an awareness, there's something shifting within, and it's not going in a good way, to be able to ask for help, and to for the young person to know that that help is there and they will be heard. That's very important, that young children understand, and then they feel confident to ask. And then the adults around them, it's important that they know that they need to respond. But awareness of what's happening inside, and certain very specific, clear, maybe like 2 or 3 strategies that to do: find a quiet space, do something active, ask, have an agreement in place in class. I'm feeling a bit, whatever terminology that is agreed, having things in place beforehand to allow them to go to a quiet space, but having that, teachers having that in place for them, and at home having that understanding as well. And in terms of adults, it's like building self-awareness and a bit of acceptance of, this is how my brain works, this is what happens, I feel quite intensely, bit of acceptance of that, but with kindness and self-compassion. It's okay, this is what I can do. And to practice breathing when you're not feeling anxious, and seeing, so when you're feeling slightly anxious, and practice it and sort of using it as evidence, it's coming down, then you're more likely to use it when you're highly anxious, because you've got the evidence already in your mind.
Now, going back to the question I'd ask about young people and how they might forget or not being able to remember what they've learned through your sessions in real life situations, that I think it's about the adults around them, isn't it? Like what you said, be it the parents, being able to pick up on those cues where the young person is maybe starting to feel a bit overwhelmed, and maybe use that as a cue of, how about if you get some, take some time out, or have some space, or they can have something within the environment that they're in that acts as a visual cue as well, which prompts them to say, I'm feeling overwhelmed now, so this is what I can do in that particular situation. I think self-awareness is very crucial. You mentioned that in referring to adults, and I think if you practice something more over time and it becomes a routine, particularly when you're not in those situations, it'd be easier for you to then apply it in those kind of real life situations where you actually need to apply it.
Habituate. Exactly. There's I'm sort of slightly going off topic slightly, but I'm writing a book because I'm thinking that my own personal experience, as well as my professional experience of managing emotion regulation, for example, or even relationships and friendships. I've read lots of books, but I'm going into the detail, because it's in the detail in the book that I'm writing. And I've read lots of books, and some of them are great, but then I'm starting to think, when there's a strategy in there, it's like, hang on a minute, to get to that point. I'm not actually at that point to be able to do that strategy in there. So what I'm focusing is on small steps, micro moments, like small small changes creating big waves of a good kind, basically. So it's in the detail, it's going step by step, progressively scaffolding, and all with awareness of what's going on within you, and then you can build upon it. So I want to bring it all together, basically. And you know what, Archie, actually, the reason why I thought that I wanted to do something like this, talk on a podcast, is that this is hugely anxiety provoking for me, hugely. And then, there's lots of things I've put into my place, made accommodations within my own life that make my life easier, of course. But then I thought this would be good to actually something that's hugely anxiety provoking to see how I manage it as well. Which I mean, everything that I work with people, I practice myself. Some I like more than others, but then it's also about wanting to have that sort of real life experience. And when you write a book, you need to be doing stuff like this as well anyway. But yeah, I'm using all those things that I talk about right now.
Yeah.
Being present, being engaged, noticing what's going on in my body.
Yeah. Do you want to elaborate a bit more about some of the work you do with adults? So I think you touched on the kind of, which we would class as self-care, understanding your own emotions and implementing a bit of yoga strategies there. What other support do you offer to adults? Because obviously you're a counsellor. Are there any other strategies and things that you would do with adults, specifically with neurodiversity needs?
Yeah. It's so a lot of clients speak to me, and it's about being heard. Because sometimes, if you're neurodiverse, people think, "Oh, you're just too much. The way you behave is too much. You talk too much. You don't stay in one place. Everything is too much." And that's a common experience of people with neurodiverse. People thinking you're too much, and people can't manage it. People distance themselves too much. So it's about listening to what people have to say. A bit of psychoeducation, understanding what's going on in the brain, but also specifically to themselves, allowing for them to talk about their experiences as well. Greater self-understanding, again, like I said, mentioned compassion, but also when you have compassion and kindness, you're more able to do the strategies that we talking about having a negative voice in the mind, how that is so loud and powerful. We can flip that over and use that power into something that's really positive and uplifting. And also it's about strengthening, finding their strengths and building upon that as well. Because it's so easy, brain has a negative bias. It's always easy to think about things that don't go so well, things that are anxiety provoking, but actually how about spending some time thinking about things that you thrive within, that you do really well, that are your strengths, and how can we build upon those as well to find a bit of balance as well. And confidence comes, and then it gets into confidence building as well, as well as like ways of managing things which are tricky, balancing it out.
If I was to come to you, because you said you mentioned about your own experience of living with ADHD, if you wouldn't mind, are you okay to share a bit more about that, your personal journey in terms of your diagnosis and how that came about, and maybe talk to us about the journey that you've taken since you got the diagnosis?
Yeah. So as many women, late diagnosis, and I always sort of knew with autism, I sort of knew, if somebody asked me to do something, I'd make a joke with my friends, like, it's not on my timetable, I'm not doing it, sorry, not very spontaneous, unless it's of interest to me. So I also joked about that. But the ADHD side was a bit of a surprise. But then I was reading about stuff, then I realized, actually, this relates to me. So it was a relief to actually get the acknowledgement, I felt, but also things just made sense. And even now, and it's been a few years now I've been diagnosed, but even now things just sort of fall into my brain like snow softly falling, of like, and because I have, like I said, neurodiversity is of interest to me, and also understanding myself and therefore others, lots of I guess, if you're neurodiverse, you may watch people more, especially this is the case when you read about autistic girls being very sort of watching others, learning in ways to mask as well, and boys as well. But then you read that a lot with girls, and so become quite good behaviorists and end up being counsellors possibly as well, because he's so interested in human nature and yourself So I learned a lot about myself, and it's like things make sense. And I'm more accepting of, this is difficult, this is anxiety provoking. Yeah, fine, okay, fair enough. Lean into it. It's okay. Some things I could do really well. Some things, low support needs there. Some things are challenging, high support needs. What can I do to make my life easier? Who can I ask for help as well?
Yeah. What support have you had since you've had your diagnosis? What avenues have you taken for treatment wise and support since you got your diagnosis?
I think a few things, but the main thing has been conversations with people around me who are close to me. Conversations with them that, oh yeah, I've got a diagnosis. Oh right, they might have some knowledge of it, but it's the specifics. Like I said earlier, it's the detail. It's the specifics that people sometimes don't understand. Because sometimes being like a sort of invisible condition, something you might be able to do really well one time, but you may not be able to do it again at a different time, and then that's confusing for other people. It can be confusing for yourself as well, because there's just so many different factors that can influence you in any one moment. So something that's doable one time may not be another time. So I think the biggest thing is conversations with other people that I've had, which is ongoing, within my family, within my friends as well, workplace as well. It's a big conversation, and because it varies so much within so many people. With your ADHD or autism and within yourself, it can be quite hard for people to understand, really.
Yeah, and
for yourself to understand.
And certainly being female, the stigma around that's another complexity to add on top of that. And I suppose for you, it's been a journey of guided or self-discovery. You've, I'm sure, a lot of self-awareness that you've learned throughout the journey, because ADHD and autism, these things, some things pertain just to you. There's things that applies just to you, not to others. So you can use your ADHD to your own personal advantage in any situation that you're in. So, and to learn, as you say, to adapt and see how you fit in depending on what situation that you're in. So, and for you, it's been a good journey. It sounds like it has been, really, for you to be able to then use your own experience to try and help others going through what you went through, which is what usually ends up happening to some people that then decide to work in this field of neurodiversity, where you want to help others. You can clearly see the struggles that you went through as well.
Yes, and I'm going through it. Still go through them. It's not. It's still. I could do loads of things that I couldn't before, but then I still have ADHD and autism. I still have it. And some things are still tricky. Maybe they're less tricky, but they're still tricky. But I'm aware of, this is what's happening. This is what I'm doing right now. Oh yeah, I'm talking too much, but I have a strong need to finish my sentence. For example. But
how was that received by your friends, family, when you told them about your diagnosis?
Well, it's funny actually, but just when I was going through the assessment, I remember saying to a few people, I'm going through this. I said, no, you don't have ADHD. And I was like, I want this diagnosis just to prove you wrong. How silly, how daft. It's just so silly. But then, again, people have this own idea in their mind of what this looks like. People think of little boys running out of the classroom. Oh, it really isn't, it's not really like that at all, as we know. So, but afterwards, a bit more. It's funny actually, because I can see people would just be, we're doing this. Would you like to? Are you okay with doing this? And next one I said, it's all right, it's fine. I know it's a bit last minute, but are you okay? Yeah, I'm sorry, my mind sort of find it it's sweet. People are, some of my friends and family are, being a lot more accommodating, but consciously, which is nice. It is nice. So yeah. And again, sometimes there's some things that people don't understand. It's an ongoing conversation. It is,
and I think you touched on something there about some people's perception of what ADHD. Don't view it as a typical condition that affects mainly males or boys, particularly young children, being hyperactive. And if you're not hyperactive and you're female and you're successful to some extent and you're independent and it's then looked at as you can't have ADHD because of, you've achieved all of this, you're doing well, and you don't come across as ADHD. As if you can clearly see someone with ADHD and label them just by how they are. Clearly, particularly for adults, that can be quite difficult. So yeah, I think it's a conversation that I've had so many times on this platform, just in terms of society's perception of it. And I think it's up to us really, having this podcast, and you're using your counselling work to educate as much as you're helping, but you're educating as well and raising awareness. So yeah,
that is really important. That is important. And you talked about like ADHD and boys running out of the classroom, that sort of thing. It's and girls or the quieter boys, even who stay below the radar and don't get picked up. It's because the hyperactivity is a problem for other people. They wish to not have this problem, so therefore they're quite quick to say, all right, we need to get you through an assessment. So if you're getting the grades and you're a few friendship issues maybe, or, you sort of daydream, look out the window, you're not causing a problem to anyone. So there's no impetus for the teachers to pursue assessment or have a conversation with a parent even. I think that's quite sad.
Yeah. It goes back to the whole, if you think about the different characteristics of ADHD, it's not just the hyperactivity. There are different other elements which are part of ADHD, don't have to necessarily be hyperactive. Going back to going back to the amazing work that you do. So if you, whereabouts are you based, by the way?
I am based in Kingston.
Okay.
Kingston upon Thames.
Yeah.
And so the online work, well, it's online obviously, but then what I'm working to now do is incorporate yoga with polyvagal theory, the vagus nerve, within counselling, combining them all and doing that face to face within sort of Kingston, Richmond, within thereabouts area. That's what I'm wanting to combine because I think it just fits really well.
Are you do you ever sort of are you familiar with Kingston Richmond? The charity for neurodiversity over there, Kingston Richmond.
Embrace.
I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's definitely a charity organisation for neurodiverse children, adults, young people, parents, and they have different kind of speakers and support available. They have a website.
Yes. I think it's that one. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it's on my to-do list. My very, very long to-do list.
Yeah.
I'll open a tab number 150 on my phone to get in touch with them, to remind me to get in touch with them as well. Yeah.
That might be fast because I've actually given a talk, one of their seminars. They've asked me to come in and do like a presentation. And I went. I think I discussed about transition. So I was talking to parents for transition children moving from primary school to secondary school, and also from secondary school into further education. So they are very open in terms of professionals coming to talk to them and sharing information.
And they do a great job. They do a great job as well. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, it's funny. It's like there's so much information you look online regarding children with ADHD and autism. But children grow up, become adults. It's quite hard to find specific things as well. There's lots of generalized things, but there's lots of good books as well. But you Google something, it's always children that come up, really. But there's, especially people getting diagnosed late as well.
So you work online, you go into schools. So do you have so I'm assuming it's more kind of like outreach work. You don't have a place where you see people, like a center or sort of like a clinic?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
No.
So
no, I don't have anything like that. Yeah.
All right. And if people want to
actually, just to remind me, it's one of the many ideas I was thinking was like, it would be so cool to have a base that's for sort of ADHD wellness, centered around people with ADHD on so many levels, sort of mental health and physical health, place to meet, lots of different activities. That would be so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Things like that. I think, yeah, if you think back to the NHS, they tried, in the old days, they had something almost similar, but I think now, if you obviously in the private sector, yeah, I agree. I think that's what people would definitely benefit from, where they want to go and see someone, and if they have additional needs, it's all in under one roof rather than having to go to all these different places, and it can be a bit confusing. So no, I agree. I think that's definitely something that would be worthwhile looking into, and if anyone out there has any ideas and willing to have set something similar to what we just described in there, that would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be so cool? So many different things that people can access, and you can pick and choose what sort of things you can do.
Yeah.
Sort of holistic, looking at the individual as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. We know of the things like ADHD and autism. It's an umbrella term that falls under the neurodiversity category or umbrella. So, and chances are they would also have other additional needs as well. So, if that would be a one-stop shop for everything, rather than having to move to different places to, and it encourages. And
it'll be fun as well. It'll be fun. Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Make it fun.
It encourages good team working as well. So, I was just saying, do you have a website at all, just before I forget, where people can reach out to you?
Yeah. Yes, well, I do. It needs updating, but the person who's updating it has ADHD, so it might be a while for it to be updated fully. So, and that's fine. That's okay. Go with the flow. But it's the website is counselling-with-Iffat. My name's spelled IFFAT, so it's counselling-with-Iffat at .com. Sorry.
Oh, .com.
So counselingwithiffat.com. Yeah.
Excellent. So we'll add that in the podcast description as well for people to reach out to you. Lastly, obviously, I just wanted to going back to referrals, in terms of how, if people are listening to this and they're quite keen to reach out to you, in terms of what sort of so if you just give us a quick summary of the presentations that you try. Obviously, you work with children and adults who have autism and ADHD. Is it just your main kind of speciality, or do you also see other clients who have other sort of issues that don't have neurodiversity, for example? So if someone has anxiety or depression or PTSD or anything of that sort, would you also work with them as well?
Yeah. So with the it's interesting that I think before my profile, I'm trying to think. Look, I'm with the British Association for Counselling Psychotherapy. On the BACP register is more updated information about me and post on my website. So people do come through that, refer themselves through there, and some people have approached me to say that they're feeling anxious, and we've not sure why, what's been going on post lockdown, and having many sessions, and turned out in many of those cases that actually it was underlying undiagnosed ADHD and autism actually as well. So it's quite interesting. But yes, in answer to your question, yes. And for things like that, anxiety and PTSD you mentioned, that's when the yoga work, the embodiment somatic practice of yoga plus counselling would really work for that. So that would be face to face if it's within this sort of area. So that works particularly well for that.
So if
it's everything.
So if it's face to face, would you be working with the client? Would you see them at their own house, or
possibly?
Okay, so you do home visits.
Possible. Yeah, home visits possibly hiring out a place. Sort of depends on the circumstances, but yes. That can work really well for that. Yeah, I would say because you don't have to relive trauma to heal. Your body remembers, your experiences. It's held within the body. It's a famous book, Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote "Body Keeps a Score." You might have heard of it, and they're talking about that the body remembers things that we go through, and too much trauma, but not necessarily trauma experiences. So doing an embodied practice and somatic practice where you're using your body, then that can actually release the trauma, release tension and anxiety, which can be healing as well. Don't necessarily have to relive and go through a bad experience by talking through it.
I spoke to an ADHD coach a while ago, actually, on this podcast, and they are trained in doing kind of delivering meditation, that sort of thing, a lot of self-care, a bit of yoga in there as well. And they'll, they'll work with clients and they'll go on a yoga retreat, but more specifically for clients with neurodiversity needs. So is that something you've done before, you've kind of thought about, or you kind of planning to do in the future?
Yeah. So I've been on many yoga retreats, absolutely love them. And I have been thinking at some point it would be so good to have a retreat which, as well as focus on self-care, does a lot of yoga, does understanding of polyvagal theory, understanding of how your body works, and doing lots of practical things, yoga, as well as lots of other things which are creative and playful, and getting you to sort of loosen up as well, a little dynamic movement. And at the end of that retreat, having clear strategies and ideas of how your body works, strategies specific to you to take away with you. So that's work in progress, an idea that I would love to do. That would be I'd love to do that. That's another one of my ideas, written in my ideas book.
Yeah.
So watch this space.
So when we put this podcast out, which is most likely to be next week, it's going to be obviously ADHD Awareness Month. So it's October, as you know. And there's also
October.
Yeah, and there's also mental health, World Mental Health Day on October the 10th. Yeah. So that's quite fitting as well. In terms of what we are talking about, we're talking about wellness and well-being and looking after yourself, looking after your mental health, raising awareness as far as ADHD is concerned, so that at least people are aware that there's more to ADHD than just the hyperactive and impulsive and inattention. So. Totally. So that's something that we are doing, and I'm glad that you probably will be the first one. This will be the first podcast to go out there that we are discussing about mental wellness and raising awareness for ADHD at the same time. So, great,
brilliant.
Yeah. So and keep doing your job as well. I think you're doing an amazing work. Anyone that works in this field,
so are you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoy your podcast. Been listening to them, and I thought, this is why I wanted to get in touch. Yeah, great, very interesting.
Thank you very much for reaching out as well to want to come on to this as well. So it's been great. And as I said, we got your details. We'll add them into the podcast description if people want to reach out to you. Is it the best way to contact you? Just on your website, you got your email and contact number on there.
Yeah, that's right. Through the website or through BACP. But I'll send you my email as well, which is learntoloweryouranxiety@gmail.com, but with dots in between each word. learntoloweryouranxiety@gmail.com. But I'll send you that, and you put it in the
podcast description. Yes,
what you call it. Yeah, that's it. Podcast blurbs of books. Yeah, okay.
And
old school.
One final question: you mentioned about your book that you're publishing or working to put out at some point. So when can we expect that?
Yes. Well, I need to find a publisher first. So, and with the publisher, they want you to be doing X, Y, and Z, have social media, which I don't, because it's not good for me. It fries my brain. It really is not. So I'm not interested in doing anything like that at all. So I thought this would be quite a good way of doing that. So, I'm compiling a proposal to put forward to publishers. But I've been working on it for a while, so I'm really sort of going for it. And this is also making me accountable. By talking to you has also made me think, well, I've told people it's out there, I have to do it now. So it's a good strategy. It's a bit nerve-wracking. I've got to do it now. I have to. So watch the space. There'll be lots of things within that in terms of sleep, eating, organization, planning, balancing emotions, time management, time awareness, change, sensory overload, goal-directed persistence, distress tolerance, acceptance, intrusive thinking, memory, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Long list of things, but broken down into detail.
That's great. And as you know, we've covered some of the themes you mentioned on there, on that list. So something like rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Yes.
Is that something that you'll be including in your publication?
Yes. How can you not, when you write about ADHD, that has to be in there. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Is that something that you've seen in some of your clients that you've come across, like RSD?
Yeah, very intense. That's why I think that the way I describe the tsunami of intense overwhelm is just so big, powerful, and strong. And you think, oh my gosh, I I can't survive this, but you can. But also knowing that you can, I can. The positive self-talk, just it sounds so simple, so basic, but yeah, it's actually hugely impactful. It really is. But you've got to believe in it as well.
There's an element of CBT within this, isn't it? Like what you said about the self-talk, and to some extent, or would you say not?
Well, I mean, I don't I'm not trained in CBT, and sometimes I do think that, like, some of the things that I mentioned about, I've got I'm looking right now, a leaflet I've got in front of me, unhelpful thinking styles, and it's talking about all the things that are unhelpful, and should be sort of corrected. But I'm thinking, hey, those are all the things that I do naturally anyway, like all or nothing thinking, should and must, catastrophizing, emotional reasoning. That's my default mode for my brain. So that makes me, when I see stuff like that and I think CBT, and I think, I don't know, I'm not sort of drawn to it so much, to be honest, but I like to think of, yes, that is, but it can be in proportion. It's all about proportion, really. This, your brain may think like that, and that's fine. That's the way the neurodiverse brain is, but it's okay. We can still neuroplasticity, your brain is malleable. You can learn new neural pathways through repetition, talking about habituating, learning something new. The more you do it, you consolidate it. Repetition leads to consolidation, and then eventually habituation. And then there's things that can become your natural way of doing as well. And thinking, it's not wrong to think like that. It's just the way things are. We can just put into proportion.
So also, I've, as I said before, I've spoken to lots of ADHD coaches, and I know some psychologists do work with other clients that have ADHD, and they might use modalities such as CBT, which we touched on. But your therapeutic sort of approach with all of this, it's not. I'm not trying to fit you into some sort of category, but if we think about ADHD coaching here, psychology type interventions there. Where would you say your kind of counselling type speciality, specifically for neurodiversity, where does that fit in, if it ever fits into any category?
It's a real mix. It's a real mix of so many things. It's a real mix. But the main thing is what's purposeful and helpful for that individual. So there's lots of things like I'm thinking of lots of things here, but it's specific to that individual. But in answer to your question, actually, polyvagal theory, I would say, is the one thread that I work is consistently and always present in my counselling work. So the vagus nerve, what's going on, your internal surveillance system, looking for cues of danger and cues of safety, and but unable to differentiate that there's a bus coming towards you, and feeling really things that's actual life threat, but also experiencing intense emotions when somebody hasn't read your message on WhatsApp, So it's about proportionality, but we do have that intense feeling, but it's about understanding what's going on within the body and within the brain, how the vagus nerve works, and how we can befriend our nervous system, which can lead to emotion regulation, self-regulation through co-regulation with another. So counselling with myself, with a therapist.
I've talked a lot about the pause, the power of the pause. I don't know if you heard that analogy, or there's a book actually called The Power of the Pause. And certainly that's something a lot of individuals that have ADHD struggle with. When you think about emotional regulation, I think it's the ability to pause, to reflect, or to give you options. I think pause gives you options, doesn't it? To think before you react, or what is your next move. But sometimes if you have ADHD, when you have that impulse struggle with impulse control, that pause can be a real struggle for you, which is what you find where you might act or respond first, be it doing something, or your emotions might take over. And then maybe if you are then able to reflect and think after, then obviously that usually happens after the event, isn't it? So I suppose what you're trying to say is trying to be able to teach them strategies to be able to allow themselves to be much more in tune in terms of their emotions and feelings before.
Yeah, that's true. That pause is, as you say, so incredibly difficult, can be. And sometimes if I'm pausing and you're like sort of waiting, but you're not actually, you're still sort of, a lot of mobilized energy within. So yes, there's that huge mobilized energy within. That needs, like I said earlier, needs to come out. So what helps with the pause also in doing that is actually doing something with the body that allows a bit of energy release, because once that's out, then you actually create a bit more space in your brain to pause and engage with your brain and to get your executive functions back on track and to be able to start thinking a bit. That mobilized energy needs to come out in some sort of way. So when I'm doing counselling work, then we talk about that, how to release some of that energy, because you even if you're excited about something and you're passionate and you want to share something, even then it's hard to pause. Also, this thing about with ADHD, trying to remember what you want to say is tricky as well. Difficulties with working memory, hold that thought in mind. Difficulty to be doing two things, listening to what's being said as well as holding your thought. So a bit of releasing energy can create a bit more space in the brain to access your executive functioning skills of working memory, for example, and inhibition sort of,
So that releasing of the emotions, so we're not saying suppress.
Sort of release of energy.
Release of energy. So the pause isn't all about suppressing your emotions or suppressing your feelings. It's about pausing at the same time, allowing your whatever feelings, emotions to come out, but not.
A bit of release, because it does. It does really help. So it's about in moment strategies as well. In the moment, what can you do? But that comes with the awareness, knowing that, all right, this is what's going on for me right now. So that hugely helps as well. Not suppressing, because it will come back and bite you on the backside. And it's about sort of allowing a bit of release. It's like, steam, bit of steam coming out, and there's a bit of space. Steam coming out of what? Pressure cooker? I don't know. Do people use pressure cookers? I don't know. Wandering off now, off topic, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Letting off. It's a bit of steam creates space.
Fascinating. Looking forward to your book, actually, because it sounds like to be kind of going into detail with all of this, and certainly I'm sure our listeners will definitely find it hopefully quite useful and beneficial too. So when you eventually publish it, given that you're in Kingston, we are not far from you. We're in Guildford, so yes,
I know exactly. It's opportunities.
That's what I was just thinking as we were talking there, that it'd be quite useful for us to do some sort of work at some stage anyway, be it therapeutically, workshops, groups, and we always do these things all the time.
Excellent.
So
definitely, that's really exciting. Brilliant.
Excellent. Thanks for your time, and nice to meet you. And
thank you.
Stay in touch.
Lovely meeting you as well.
And you.
Yes. Take care.
Take care. See you later. No problems. Bye then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.